Welcome back once again, rebellious generals. Thank you for taking the time to check out any of my materials related to the game. I hope you find something to help you achieve success in your own campaigns. Do not hesitate to leave questions in the comments. Be aware that Colonel, Brigadier General, and Major General difficulties all share an AI profile. Legendary has its own profile. Therefore, things that you see me do should easily translate to lower difficulties, but may not work in Legendary or be suboptimal. This is a veteran-focused campaign in the current version of the J&P Mod. Okay, what does veteran-focused mean exactly? Well, let me show you. Assume that you've just finished the Battle of Antietam. You need to rebuild your army and likely add units to fight Fredericksburg. Would you rather rebuild your army with the vet pool on the left or on the right? The army on the left lost 11,964 men. The 2,779 men in the veteran pool comprised 34% of the wounded, and their stats averaged 40.6. The army on the right lost 10,249 men. The 4,386 men in the veteran pool comprised 63% of the wounded, and their stats averaged 44.2. The army on the left had over 1,000 more wounded, and yet the army on the right has 1,600 more men in the veteran pool after the battle. I assume that you prefer to rebuild with the vet pool on the right. Here's one more thing to consider. The army on the left deployed 11 two-star units, 44 one-star units, and 4 recruit units to Antietam. The army on the right deployed 20 two-star and 40 one-star units with no recruit units. Why? Having your vets to redeploy after grand battles continuously helps retain your veterancy and build two-star units faster. Wouldn't you agree that 20 two-star units going into Antietam would be better than 11? Wouldn't it be better to rebuild after Antietam with over 4,000 vets that have better stats? The army on the left was not veteran-focused, and the army on the right is this campaign. Regarding career points, going into Antietam, the army on the left had 10 in politics, 1 in economy, 8 in training, 9 in army organization, and 1 in logistics, 4 in recon. It had resources for days and an armory full of weapons, but their troops weren't as good. The army on the right had 10 in medicine, 7 in training, 9 in army organization, 1 in logistics, and 6 in recon. It had to stretch its resources and empty the armory of weapons just to get all of its units on the field, but it had twice as many two-star units and no longer fields any no-star units. Rushing medicine in the current version of the J&P Rebalance mod is no joke. Okay, let's review career points. I will put some points in economy and politics later in the campaign to support weapons upgrades and army expansion, but those will stay 0 for a while. As I said before, I'm going to rely on 4 in recon, along with fully clearing battles, to maximize captures and get all my weapons. I will add points to recon later when I prepare to expand to 3 corps. If this were a Union campaign, I'd get another point in logistics to boost the number of cavalry and skirmisher specialty weapons. But the Confederate campaign starts with more Colt pistols and skirmisher weapons in the armory, so I can wait a little bit on that. 2 in army organization will get me through first Bull Run, so that's not an immediate need. Most players will see 3 in training and feel that increasing it to 4 is the most logical move, and I wouldn't fault you for doing that. However, if you start crunching the numbers, you quickly discover that points in training before Shiloh really don't help that much. So why is that? First, training does lower the cost of deploying veterans, but it'll be a while before we need that benefit. Training also increases the rank of replacement officers when ours get wounded, but it really isn't all that noticeable until you get closer to 10 points in it. Training provides a stat bonus to units not deploying into battle and sitting around in camp. That's great, but I'll be deploying every unit that I have through Shiloh. I won't have units sitting in camp until I start the 3 side battles leading up to Gaines Mill, so that doesn't really help right now. Lastly, training increases the recruit, veteran, and wounded pool stats up to the training cap. That sounds good, but with 4 in training, our cap will be 24. It's unlikely that my veteran or wounded pools will benefit greatly because I'll be mostly fighting with 1-star units that are over 24 in their stats anyway. That leaves only the recruit pool to benefit from training early on. However, let's understand how the numbers work. The Confederate recruit stats don't absolutely suck like the Union recruits. In fact, Confederate recruits could take a maximum morale penalty of -7 by using up all the reputation points, and it would still have higher morale than what the Union recruits get with no penalties. The one stat that really needs work is efficiency, which is only an 8, so let's take a look at those numbers. After I build my division for Newport News, I will have 5,745 recruits left in the pool. If I put a point in training, that will give them +2 applied to all stats, so efficiency will briefly move up to 10. However, I'm going to get 2,700 recruits from winning the battle, plus about 1,600 from a prisoner exchange. So I'll add 4,300 new recruits into the pool. Well, new recruits always come in with the minimum stats. So the math is going to look like 5,745 men at 10 efficiency, plus 4,300 at 8 efficiency, and that averages out to 9 efficiency. I will then make 4 new recruit units to take in the Bull Run, and my recruit pool will drop down to 6,147 recruits with 9 in efficiency. They'll get +2 to jump it up to 11. However, Bull Run is going to award me 7,700 recruits for winning, and I'm going to get another 2,500 from prisoner exchange. So then the math looks like 6,147 at 11 efficiency, plus 10,300 at 8 efficiency, and I'm still at 9 efficiency. I haven't gained anything. Since we're trying to build our army to 20 units for Shiloh, 40 units for Gaines's Mill and Malvern, and then 60 units for Antietam, we keep taking troops out of the recruit pool. The recruits awarded for winning battles and prisoner exchanges always have the minimum stats, so they keep watering the recruits back down. Now, the way I play, I'll eventually have a large recruit pool that won't be affected so much when the minimum stat guys come in. However, that build-up's not even going to start until after Shiloh. Therefore, here's my recommendation for training. If you take the campaign start that I did with 3 in training, then add a 4th point after Bull Run and leave it there until medicine's maxed out. Taking training early in the Union campaign would be fine because those recruits are just freaking horrible, and every little bit will help them. If you took different starting career points with no training, then you can just wait until after Shiloh before you start putting points into it. I wouldn't max training anytime before Antietam, but you likely want to have it maxed out in the camp right after Stones River. So why is that? Well, the Battle of Stones River starts in December of 1862, and it ends in January 1863. The recruits in both campaigns get +4 to all stats starting in 1863. This effectively pushes the training cap from 30 with 10 in training up to 34. For the rest of the campaign, you can make 1-star units just with recruits whenever you want to add new units later. It also provides a high stat floor when you must add recruits to veteran units. I put my 2 career points into medicine here to start building it up. Each point in medicine gives a 3.3% bonus. I like to target adding points in groups of 3 since it's basically 10% for every 3. With the casualty system, men can be killed, wounded, or missing in action. Your medicine percentage will instantly restore wounded men to their unit, much like the base game. A base of 25% of your wounded cycle from the badly wounded pool to the wounded pool and then to the veteran pool. Your medicine percentage gets added to the base of 25. So not only do you get 33% instant wounded restore after battles, but you get 25% plus 33% for a total of 58% applied to those that cycle from the wounded pool back up to the veteran pool. That double bonus is what makes medicine so powerful. Here's a comparison of these 2 armies, the one on the left with no points in medicine and the one on the right with 10 points. With nothing in medicine, I get no immediate returns of wounded directly after a battle. I only get the default of 25% of casualties moving from the badly wounded to the wounded and then into the veteran pool. As a result, this Army must replace 75% of its lost veterans with new recruits. Even if you had 10 in training, so there was 30 in all recruit stats, your 2-star units are still going to take a hit, dropping down from an average of over 50 to something else. You may end up having to choose between losing your star or keeping the unit large enough to be effective in battle. On the other hand, if I have 10 in medicine, I get the 33% instant return of wounded back to my units after battle, and I get 58% of my casualties cycling from the badly wounded to the wounded to veteran pool. You'll find that you can often replace all of your 2-star unit losses with troops from the veteran pool, which is a huge retention of unit stats. This has a profound effect on the number of 2-star units you can have later in the campaign because you're retaining your vets with high stats. We have a good assortment of officers in the Academy for hire. As a reminder, the Academy is populated with 15 officers to start the game, and then after each grand battle, 14 more will be added. The ranks of the officers are entirely random, so in theory, you could get 14 captains or you could get 14 brigadier generals. I spent 5 reputation points to buy the 2,000 Mississippis. I gave my avatar the firepower perk for accuracy because it benefits all the units early on. I emptied my supply wagons since the battle will give me supply wagons and I need all the money I can get. I disbanded Cabell and gave him the division for this one battle. I'll put his artillery unit back together before we go to Bull Run. For Newport News, I like having 3 infantry and a cavalry unit. I just feel it's much more effective. Preston's melee cavalry will end up getting way more kills than any artillery unit could. Plus, he can force surrenders and shatters. I gave Mississippis to both Siegfried and Kemper and increased them to 1,500 men each. They also have an accuracy perk. I hired Cross from the Academy to create a 1,800-man recruit unit. They should easily get to their first star in this battle. I give them MJ and Gs with the 85 melee damage. The plan is for Cross to stay slightly forward to tank damage to allow Kemper and Siegfried to fire while avoiding direct damage in the first phase. Preston and Stewart's cavalry will provide support, run down rowdy units, and seek targets of opportunity. Once my allies arrive, I will rush them forward to replace my core units on the line and try to let my guys play a little bit more of a support role and a last line of defense while continuing to fire and harvest experience. The Union received 12,500 new recruits. If you want to understand the intelligence service information, please watch the start of my distress call video from my last Union campaign. I'm not going to talk about it in depth here, other than to say that these numbers are relatively important, but they're not technically accurate. The Union Army is not 37,000 to 42,000 strong. It's more correct to say that the Union has 37 to 42,000 men above its default army size, and we don't know what the default army size is. All you really need to know is that as these numbers increase, the AI army gets bigger, gains more experience, and has better weapons above the program default values. So often I see other players' videos and they're trying to understand why the numbers on the intelligence report, the deploy screen, and the final battle numbers don't match. Or why are there 2- and 3-star units in the battle if the army is only 15 to 20% trained? You'll be much better off considering these numbers as bonuses that the AI army can get over its program defaults. One last comment before we start the battle. In the Potomac Fort battle, I said that routing units do not do any damage. That statement was technically inaccurate. I meant to say that routing units are the safest to charge, even with units lacking a charge perk. This is because routing units take significant penalties due to their morale state. They also take additional penalties as their condition deteriorates. The actual mathematics gets complicated. If you want to know more about melee mechanics and how to manage AI charges, check out the camp section of my Logan's Crossroads video in the Union campaign. I don't think you'll find anything else like it. As we look at the deploy screen, we see 16,406 troops and 25 guns for the Union Army. We will have 4,823 Allied troops, and they will bring 12 guns. Understand that these numbers really represent the minimum number of troops the AI and our allies will bring. the actual numbers are most likely to be larger. So why is that? One mechanic is called variance. Variance is checked for every AI and allied unit and can increase or decrease the size, experience, or weapons quality of a unit. Another mechanic is duplicate chance. By default, there's a 20% chance that each AI and allied unit can duplicate and become 2 brigades. Some battles have forced duplicates. In that case, there's a chance to roll a 3rd brigade. This does not apply to the player's core units. The purpose of variance and dupes is to give the player a different battle every time. Of course, you can have bad luck with dupes. The AI army could end up with way more than 20% dupes, and it can make early battles like the Stress Call and Newport News feel almost impossible. So always assume that you'll end up fighting more than what's actually listed here. Okay, I add my units to the deploy slot, and we have a minimum of 10,493 soldiers and 12 guns to fight the battle. I will begin by immediately pulling my units back into the town and having Stuart's cavalry come and guard my movement. Ideally, a few of the early Union units will be aggressive and charge across the river, and we can eliminate a few to help even up the odds for later. I hate when the AI plays passively in this first phase. I don't want my units in the fortifications unless they're being charged. I don't like how fortifications spread your units out, making it easier for the enemy to get multiple units firing on you. Stuart would get off a few rounds while waiting for the guys to set up in town. Some players prefer to use skirmishers and cavalry to attack the Union at various places, but I find that just delays the infantry from approaching the town. I want them to get here as soon as possible so my entire line can inflict damage on all of them. Until then, I will have to wait and check for duplicates on the approaching units. Bernie is a single and Poe is a duplicate. Let's see if either of them decide to cross. Both of them are going to try to cross. I can tear them up pretty good. I'll push cross forward just a bit. Everyone is wavering. My guys are ready to pounce. Took one opposed brigades. Preston will now take the dedicated skirmisher. Union cavalry's coming in, so now I want to fall back until I know what they're going to do. I do have Stuart dismounted and firing from a rear fortification. Harrison is charging. I'll try to focus fire on him, although across his skirmishers are probably going to shatter. Preston is charging. You can see what I mean about the lack of damage to Preston from Harrison's cav. Most of the damage that Preston's getting is from other units when they fire into him. I'll get Stewart's cav mounted up. I'm moving again. Harrison's broken. There we go. Harrison's done. That's really the AI's best unit there, but it really never knows how to use its cavalry effectively. I'm pressing my luck before Wilcox and Robinson get within range, but Preston and Stewart took Bernie too. Okay, let's pull back and wait for the phase to change. Hopefully Bernie can get far enough south to not get recaptured. I'll put Cross in the fortification with Wilcox coming just for the melee bonus. Siegfried will support from the left fortification, which I feel is the safest location in town for him to fire from. I don't know if Richardson will make it before the timer expires. There we go. That'll stop Richardson's charge right there. I want to get Ewell and a few of the others up here as soon as possible to prepare for countercharge by all the units that will arrive. Even though Wilcox and Richardson are wavering right now, Poe's 2nd Brigade is coming. I can pull Cross and Kemper back a bit, I'd be happy with that. The Allied units are in place with time to spare. Grover, Taylor, and Howard appear to be singles. I'm preparing to flank the units that are coming in from the right. If the AI was more coordinated, it could just be devastating. If Grover and Taylor want to come in one at a time, that's perfectly fine with me. Alright, now we have 3 heroic units charging. Make that 4. The nice part about the AI being aggressive is that if you can hold, you can win decisively and quickly. Once all of his units are wavering, it's all over except for the cleanup. I'm pushing my right flank forward, and I'll take the unprotected artillery soon. We have 4 units routing, but the AI is seriously compromised right now. Taylor is surrounded, so he should really surrender. Cross is taking way more damage than I wanted, but my core units are the only ones holding things together at the moment. The Allies should start recovering. Great, the other Allied cavalry's on the field, so I can start clearing out some of the artillery out of the back. I will let the tired allies rest, but press forward with these others. The AI is trying to pull out, but he has too many troops stuck near the water. I should have had plenty of time to eliminate all of the AI units. They all look to be in bad shape. see if Grover will rout and then chase him down and get both artillery batteries. Jennifer has Cook and Brothers, which are basically high-accuracy infantry weapons. But the one shot does nice damage, especially at close range. Time for the Allies to get back into the fight. Robinson's trying to get away, but the rest are in trouble. Jennifer's too close to get out of the way of this canister fire, so we're just going to push forward and attack. Going to let my cavalry rest for a few minutes. Ewell is in decent shape, so I'm going to charge with him. Siegfried looks good. Kemper looks good. I will charge with Buell's other brigade and cross into the fortification. My cavalry can finish off Taylor. Now I have to track down Robinson to finish this up. In the mod, units being charged take a morale penalty. So even if you don't intend to charge all the way, Just having your unit's charts to start out can help this unit rout from the morale penalty. However, I don't recall how close you need to be for that penalty to start. I would like him to rout before I charge with Preston. All right, there's only 2 minutes left. I need to work quick. I had 115 troops killed, 387 wounded, and 62 missing. The Union lost a total of 12,471 and 11 guns, while our total losses were 1,680 and 4 artillerymen. Preston lost 111, but he had 1,067 kills. Siegfried, Cross, and Kemper all did fine. Cross got left hanging out by himself there on the left side and had to tank a lot of shots for a while. Preston made it to General. Thank you so much for spending some of your valuable time watching today. I hope you found something useful for your campaigns, and I wish you much success, Generals.